Hello friends, welcome to Star Explainer. Tales of Herding Gods Part 325 and 326 explains based on novel. So let's start explanation. Lin Xiao was originally defending against Qin Mu's 72 formations, and Qin Mu had first suppressed him with his magnetism divine art. Next, the power of the formation burst forth and covered him with injuries. However, he was a god after all, and even if he had severed his cultivation from an extremely high realm to the realm of honored god, his horizons and knowledge were still there. He was just caught off guard by Qin Mu. He quickly reacted, and his severed cultivation was refined into a big sun by him. It wasn't too difficult for him to use the power of the sun to break Qin Mu's formations. Even village chief's sword picture couldn't block the power of his sun, much less Qin Mu. Yet, Zhewali's knife had come at the right time, and the knife severed his head. In terms of coordination, only Xu Xinghua could catch up to Qin Mu. Zhewali's change in thoughts wouldn't be able to catch up to Qin Mu, thus Qin Mu had laid out the formations ahead of time and transformed his cultivation and divine art into formations, ambushing Lin Xiao. The power of the formations was extremely strong, and when the power of the 72 formations burst forth, it even surpassed Qin Mu attacking personally. However, the formations were dead, so he could only control Lin Xiao for a moment, unable to kill him. That was where Zhewali had come in place. The 72 formations were just to create a chance for Zhewali. Zhewali could never pass through Qin Mu's formations easily and grab hold of this chance. If it was Xu Xinghua could understand the operation and marvel of these formations, so he could easily grab hold of the chance. Thus, Qin Mu's last formation was a teleportation formation, which carried Zhewali through the power of those formations, delivering this best chance into Zhewali's hands. This was the reason why Zhewali said the battle of Killing God was already 90% completed. Right in the instant when Zhewali slew Lin Xiao, that sun lost control and blazing flames swept in all directions. The flames were like overflowing waves that toppled the mountains and overturned the seas. Qin Mu used the last of his magic power to execute a teleportation divine art to rescue Zhewali out. The sea of flames pounced over furiously and drowned out Qin Mu. The flames were the light of teleportation, and it passed by Qin Mu's body with a swoosh. Qin Mu instantly vanished. In the next instant, both of them appeared outside of the tunnel. They saw a pillar of flame shooting out from the tunnel, and it was several hundred miles long. It was very astonishing. After a moment, the pillar of fire vanished. Qin Mu and Zhewali stumbled as they landed on the ground. Because Zhewali was too nervous and had used too much force, his body was trembling. His arms and legs were also trembling, while the demon knife behind him was also shaking non-stop. Qin Mu was weak, because he had exhausted all of his vital qi and magic power, thus he had no choice but to sit and rest on the ground. Zhewali popped his head to look into the tunnel, and he could still see wisps of flame that were no extinguished. However, a whiff of cooked meat spread over and raised their appetite. Zhewali swallowed his saliva and took a glance at Qin Mu. Cult Master Qin, you have eaten hen dragons before, right? In that case, have you eaten before a hen dragon that's on God realm? Qin Mu's spirit was raised and he shook his head. I had not. Zhewali reminded him, there's one down there and it's already cooked. I can even smell it burning. Qin Mu stood up shakily and said with a smile, this hen dragon is very huge, we just need to cut off the burnt parts. The other parts must still be tender and juicy. I still have some salt, oil, sauce, vinegar and all other kinds of condiments. Me too. Both of them looked at each other and they suddenly laughed loudly, their laughter traveling far into the distance. When they stopped laughing, neither of them had much energy left. They supported each other to walk into the tunnel. After a moment, Qin Mu's astonished cries came out from inside. Your demon knife eats as well. Is this still a knife? This demon knife of mine is actually a life form in my celestial heavens, it's called Dragon's Tooth. When I followed Teacher Luo to train in East Heaven, I received this knife on Numinous Treasure Mountain. How delicious. Teacher Luo said that East Heaven was the territory of Great Emperor Qin Long. Great Emperor Qin Long's vitality is vigorous and his teeth grow very fast, thus he has to grind his teeth frequently, thus he uses Numinous Treasure Mountain to grind his teeth. Numinous Treasure Mountain is very durable, and would break off his teeth sometimes, so it would form life forms, like Dragon's Tooth on Numinous Treasure Mountain. Most of the people learning knife in the celestial heavens mostly go there to seek treasures, hoping to get one. However, not many are fated. Numinous Treasure Mountain. The Numinous Treasure Mountain, that can break East Heaven's Great Emperor Qin Long's teeth, is then the treasure. Once I go to East Heaven, I will definitely take Numinous Treasure Mountain away to turn it into a treasure. You can't lift it, that mountain is not smaller than Mount Meru. This is the dragon's liver, don't eat it first, it has a gamey taste. I have some onion and ginger here. Do you have things like sour green bean and sour chili? Jahwali, your cooking skills are not bad at all. I had also trained myself to cook. When I was cultivating with Fu Riluo, the food of the devil race is different from the food of the human race, thus I need to cook myself. Quite a long while later, both of them supported each other with their round bellies and walking shakily out of the tunnel. They sat down on the ground, huffing and puffing from being stuffed. When they were eating, they had experienced another cycle and the palace where Celestial Empress coffin was placed had recovered. Qin Mu and Jahwali's bellies were round from being stuffed and even Jahwali's demon knife got fatter. He didn't know if the blade had gotten fatter as well. Qin Mu stumbled out of the hall and leaned against a pillar. He narrowed his eyes and looked outside. Celestial river flowed and at this moment, the sun was currently setting in the west and it lighted up this huge river beautifully. The red tinge on the river was like the rouge of a woman and the color of the sunset was the red lips of a girl. I wonder which era is outside. Jahwali was too stuffed until he found it hard to walk. He walked over onto the stone steps and just sat down. Cult Master Qin, if you don't know which cycle is the initial cycle, do you still have the confidence to solve Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art? The cycle when the 4 deities board the ship, that would be the initial cycle. Qin Mu said with a calm expression. The moment the 4 deities board the ship, it is the same time when feathered forest guards turns into the void. When we see figures turning from the void into reality, that would mean it's the initial cycle. Meanwhile, the 4 great deities will also appear soon. Jahwali's heart tightened and he said solemnly, you said earlier that you have a way to borrow power from the 4 deities to break Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art. How powerful are the 4 deities? Are you sure you can do it? Qin Mu revealed a smile and said leisurely, the 4 deities weren't trapped on this ship. They still descended disaster on us afterward and DIEUS sought knowledge under them, this meant that we had succeeded. Jahwali was stunned and he thought of a crucial point. What about Lin Xiao? He will board the ship before the 4 deities, am I right? Which cycle would he board the ship? This guy's abilities are so high, if he boards the ship again, we might not be his match. If he can escape out of Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art, it would be bad for us. It's very easy if we want to know when he boards the ship. Qin Mu touched his bulging belly and said with a smile, when our bellies deflate, that means the cycle where Lin Xiao boards the ship has come. Even if he can leave this ship, he won't have the memory he had on this ship. The most terrifying point is still. Jahwali looked at Qin Mu and saw his smile. He felt a chill even though it wasn't cold. Qin Mu said indifferently, he is here on a mission to hide Ju Wuchen properly. Even if Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art is broken, he will still return to this ship time and time again, falling into the cycles. He will still become the tiny human in the lantern. He will be forever trapped in this ship. Not only him, as long as everyone in the 36 cycles doesn't have the memory on board this ghost ship, they will repeat what they had done before and board that ship again. He said softly, they will go through continuous cycles, board the ship continuously, die continuously, revive again continuously, and board the ship again. There will be no end. The only way to escape is not to board the ghost ship when it comes. Jawali's face changed drastically and he stuttered, "What you say is I won't have the memory during this period of time. I will still board this ship." "That's not right. That's not right. Didn't you say you can borrow the power of the 4 deities to solve Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art? You even said the people already dead would revive and the people turned into the void will break free, returning to their respective eras." Qin Mu revealed a smile. The sun set in the west and vanished beneath the horizons. The light on the ship lit up and his face was flickering between light and dark. "I'm solving Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art, not destroying it. Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art will still reassemble itself, her divine art won't vanish. To Celestial Venerable Ling, her divine art doesn't have the concept of what is called time, everything in this world is substance. Even living things are also substances. Her divine art can break down any life, and also reassemble the substances that were broken down into the original life. This is the highest realm in creation." Under the flickering light, Qin Mu's had a dark gaze. "Even if I borrow the power of the 4 deities, I can only solve her divine art temporarily. I can't erase her divine art completely. After I solve this divine art, everyone will be able to break free from the void, the people who had died will also revive. Prince Qiuming, who was killed by me, will also revive. They should still board this ship again, and repeat what they had done. However," he said with a smile, "you will preserve your memory, because you are still alive. You and I will leave this ship the instant we borrow the power of the 4 deities to break Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art, returning back to our own era. You would be reassembled by Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art, so your memory will be preserved." Jawali let out a sigh of relief. He suddenly said, "I will stop Teacher Luo from boarding this ship." Qin Mu was slightly stunned. Jawali said, "He is still my teacher after all. He has taught me and raised me up, so I owe him a mountain debt of gratitude. I will stop him." "I understand." Qin Mu nodded his head and said, "You are such a person." Jawali revealed a smile. "After I stop him from boarding the ship, I will cut ties with him. I will go to eternal peace." Qin Mu nodded once again, "Be careful in what you do." Jawali said, "You have to be careful too. Once Prince Qiuming is revived, he will definitely attack you again." Qin Mu smiled, "He will die even faster." The light of the ship burst forth and drowned them. Qin Mu gently touched his belly and said, "Lin Xiao is bringing Zhu Wuchen over and he's going to board soon. Let us go, we need to avoid them." After Lin Xiao boards the ship, the 4 deities will be boarding in a few more cycles. Jawali hurriedly touched his belly and his round belly earlier had deflated immediately. Both of them left quickly. After the light faded, the sun rose from the east. A group of gods brought a coffin and boarded the ship in a hurry. They rushed straight for the palace hall where Celestial Empress' coffin was placed. Not long later, both of them heard sounds of fighting coming from the palace hall. It was obvious that Lin Xiao had discovered he couldn't leave this ship, thus he started a massacre to kill his companions. Jawali asked, "Cult Master Qin, will Celestial Venerable Ling board the ship?" "She will. But we won't see her." Qin Mu listened to the sounds of fighting quietly, and he looked at the pillar in front. On the pillar was the poem that Celestial Venerable Ling had left behind, and Qin Mu said calmly, she is not in her own divine art. The poem she leaves behind will forever stay on that pillar. After killing you guys, no one will leak any pieces of information. In the distance, Lin Xiao's voice traveled over and he clucked. Celestial Empress will take care of my descendants, and let all of my descendants achieve meteoric success. The light burst forth again, and when the light faded, Qin Mu looked at the training field in front of the palace hall, and he saw the figures of the gods slowly appearing on the empty field. Qin Mu took a step forward and faced the strongest army of Dragon Han Celestial Heaven. He raised the commander's seal of feathered forest guards high up. The incomparably powerful gods turned around and looked at this youth walking in their faces. Zhehuali felt uneasy and followed behind him. Feathered forest guards, one of the 10 armies of Dragon Han Celestial Heavens. It was the strongest combat power in Dragon Han Celestial Heavens. If the killing intent of these gods stirred, they didn't even need to move to overwhelm them to death. Suddenly, all of the gods lowered their heads and knelt down on one knee. With their fists cupped above their heads, they boomed in unison. Feathered forest guards, pays our respects to Right Commander. Rise. Qin Mu stretched out his palm. Follow me to battle. In the distance, a lantern flew up silently and the door of the lantern opened up. The tiny human transformed from Lin Xiao looked at this sight in utter fear. Gods with towering bodies rose and looked at the youth walking towards them. Commander's seal represented one's identity. It was proof to mobilize the military power. In the 10 armies of the celestial heavens, they only admit the seal and not the person. The 10 armies of the celestial heavens were only loyal to Celestial Emperor, so if there was no commander's seal, the commander wouldn't be able to even move the army. There were only 2 methods to mobilize the army. The first was with a commander's seal, the second was Celestial Emperor taking charge personally. As long as Qin Mu held the commander's seal, he would be the right commander of Feathered Forest Guards. He would have the power to mobilize the army. The commander's seal was brought away by founding master Wei Suifeng and handed over to Elder Qing Huang for safekeeping. Even with the commander's seal in hand, he couldn't mobilize this batch of strong gods until he came back to the origin of the ghost ship cycle. When Feathered Forest Guards returned back from the void, Qin Mu could finally borrow this commander's seal to control this terrifying strength. In front of Feathered Forest Guards, Qin Mu's face gradually changed into the face of Celestial Venerable Mu. Mu Qing of the 9 Celestial Venerables, Celestial Venerable Mu. The god soldiers looked at his face changing, and even though they looked astonished, they didn't ask anything. The 9 Celestial Venerables all have their unique abilities, and every one of them has extraordinary achievements. However, the most mysterious ones were still Celestial Venerable Qin, and this Celestial Venerable Mu in front of them. They were always missing. No matter who was it, as long as they were in control of the commander's seal, they would be their leader. Qin Mu raised his hand and a sword flew out to sever the pillar, which contained the poem Celestial Venerable Ling had left behind. The pillar flew over and his body expanded little by little. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the pillar, walking forward with 10,000 gods of Feathered Forest Guards following behind him. Zhehuali braved himself, and he followed closely behind Qin Mu. He realized that Qin Mu was leading these gods towards the palace hall where Celestial Empress's coffin was in. In front of the palace hall, an incomparably strong dragon god was being locked up between the chains. He looked menacingly at Qin Mu, who was walking over, and shouted fiercely, "Heaven and earth changes, the unchanging constant of 36 people. What is the meaning of this? Tell me, what is the meaning?" Qin Mu stopped in his footsteps and his mind was blown. Zhehuali hurriedly said, "Cult Master Qin, why have you stopped? This dragon is always saying the same things over and over again." Qin Mu shook his head, and his mind was cleared up now. He pointed at King Dragon Count and said with a smile, "When I board this ship, you had said this phrase. I thought you were crazy and was spouting nonsense. Never would I expect that you aren't asking the others, you are asking me. He had a ridiculous feeling. That old dragon had a crazed expression, and he continued to ask menacingly, "Tell me quickly, what is the meaning?" Qin Mu smiled. "Only by solving the unchanging constant can you leave." After saying so, he turned to bring the soldiers of feathered forest guards into the hall. Solve the unchanging constant. That old dragon was stunned and shouted. How do you solve it? Don't go. Come back and tell me, how do I solve the unchanging constant? Qin Mu walked into the hall, and he saw 8 huge dragons guarding Celestial Empress' coffin. The 8 dragons were being chained up. And now, the 8 huge dragons were not petrified. He opened up the tunnel once again, and led the soldiers inside before sealing the tunnel. He asked solemnly, "Has General Wei taught you guys about 4 symbols calamity formation?" The 10,000 gods immediately laid out and transformed into 4 symbols calamity formation. They were split into 4 corners under the ship, and they were lined up orderly, waiting for inspection. Qin Mu surveyed the surroundings, and he let out a sigh of relief. Wei Suifeng had trained these soldiers well and taught them the 4 symbols calamity formation, inside great educational heavenly devil scriptures to them. He came to the center of 4 symbols calamity formation, and he stabbed the pillar where Celestial Venerable Ling had left the poem behind. He said with a low voice, "The 4 deities should be coming soon. If they don't board the ship at this cycle, my arrangements would be all useless. Hope they will come." Suddenly, the ghost ship shook gently and it paused. This ship that has been missing for 20,000 years has finally reappeared again. There was a dull and heavy voice coming from outside, and Qin Mu had heard this voice before. It was the voice of North Deity Qin Mu. During Jade Pool meeting, Neo Sanjua wrecked the celestial heavens, and he had planned to raise Celestial River up as a weapon, and in the end, Celestial River was suppressed by North Deity Qin Mu. So this meant that the person that had stopped the ghost ship was North Deity Qin Mu. He self-proclaimed he was an ancient god that was born in Celestial River, so it should be very easy to stop the ghost ship sailing on Celestial River. By controlling the Celestial River, it was very easy for him to discover the ghost ship as well. East Deity Qing Long's voice rang out, "Dao brother Qin Wu, the case where Celestial Empress got attack is filled with doubtful points. With feathered forest guards vanishing on their return journey, putting these 2 cases together, there is really something fishy about it. We have to investigate. West Deity, South Deity, you guys are finally here." 4 incomparably powerful and sacred auras spread over, and Qin Mu was finally at ease. As I have expected, all 4 deities have arrived. This is the only chance to escape, there can be no mistake. Celestial Empress getting attacked, feathered forest guards quelling the rebellion, feathered forest guards vanishing on Celestial River, this incident shook the world 20,000 years ago. Qin Mu heard a familiar voice and he subconsciously smiled. It was Zhu Qiu's voice. Zhu Qiu was none other than South Deity Zhu Qiu. Her voice continued to ring out. There were all kinds of rumors back then, and I heard General Wei Suifeng had first sent someone to the celestial heavens to report about the matters happening in Ruins of End. I had also sounded out, and the person Wei Suifeng had sent over reported to Celestial Emperor that Celestial Empress had died in Ruins of End. Wei Suifeng had laid her corpse in a coffin, and was returning to the celestial heavens. In that case, Celestial Empress' corpse should be on Feathered Forest Guard's ship and vanish along with them. However, Feathered Forest Guards has vanished while Celestial Empress has appeared on the celestial heavens. This really puzzled me. Another woman's voice rang out, and it should be West Deity by who? Sister Zhu Qiu, it was Great Sun Sovereign that had told you about this incident, am I right? I've also asked Great Sun Sovereign before, and that was what he told me as well. This little bird knows a lot of secrets. Celestial Empress resurrection isn't the only suspicious point. Even that soldier that had come to report to Celestial Emperor had vanished inexplicably. It's like he had completely vaporized from this world and couldn't be found anymore. It's too strange. What was even stranger was that these weird incidents have all happened on Celestial River, yet Dao brother Qin Mu says he doesn't know anything at all. South deity Zhu Q said indifferently, "How can the incidents that happen on Celestial River be hidden from you? Yet you say you know nothing. Dao brother Qin Mu, you are very suspicious." North deity Qin Mu snorted. East deity Qing Ling coughed and said, "Dao brother Qin Mu is not that kind of person." It was also Dao brother Qin Mu that had informed us now that this ship has reappeared again. He had gathered all of us to witness this. If he had done it, would he have invited us over? Since we are here, let us board this ship and have a look for ourselves. Suddenly, the ghost ship sank down, and it must have been the four deities who had broke through the black gas surrounding this ship to board this ghost ship. This ship is strange. West deity cried out in astonishment. There's a kind of power that is trying to invade me. I also feel it. It's a very strange power that wants to control me. It's not controlling, it's seizing our power. Not only is it seizing our power, but it's also even trying to take our corporeal bodies. This power is trying to merge us into one with it. This ship is alive. This is a trap. Boom, boom. Explosions rang out and terrifying waves swept through the entire ship. That was the four deities trying to break through Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art. East deity transformed into a green dragon and flew out of the ghost ship. His body disappeared into the black gas, and in the next instant, East deity Qing Long suddenly appeared on this ship again. He landed on the ground and quickly moved several steps, revealing a look of astonishment. East deity flew out once again, and he appeared on this ship the next instant. After flying dozens of times, he still appeared on this ship, and this caused the great deity that was in charge of a celestial palace to even be flustered. The other three great deities also executed all kinds of methods to try to leave this ship. South deity Zhu Q's speed was the fastest, and she transformed into a vermilion bird to escape. However, no matter how she flew or how fast she flew, she would always return back on the ship. North deity controlled Celestial River and tried to swing this ship out of Celestial River, but even if the ghost ship was swung out, it would still return back to the surface of the river in the next instant. Meanwhile, West deity controlled her gold chi to try to split the black gas outside the ship into pieces. However, the black gas quickly returned back to its original shape. This ship has something that made the four deities felt inconceivable. The ghost ship was a huge life form itself that trapped everything. Even that divine art that was surrounding that ghost ship was also a divine art that they had never seen before. The four deities possessed abilities to change the world, and each of them controlled incomparably powerful great Tao. Their Tao cultivation was even incomparably dense, and yet they were helpless against this ship. Work together to break through the divine art surrounding this ship. The four deities made their moves and attacked the black fog outside the ship. Right at this moment, they suddenly felt the power in their divine art flowing away rapidly, as though someone had stolen them away. The four deities felt astonished, and they hurriedly executed their magic power to attack furiously. Inside the ship, Four Symbols Calamity Formation was activated, and Qin Mu was in charge of the formation to steal the power of the four deities. The power of Four Symbols Calamity Formation became stronger and stronger, and in the center of the formation, apparitions of the green dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise appeared to roar and surged forward. Suddenly, the power of the four deities boomed as four beams burst forth to shine on the pillar where Celestial Venerable Ling had left behind her poem. Flowers are not flowers, fogs are not fogs. Like shadowy appearances coming at midnight, leaving at first light. They come like a spring dream, but for how long? Parting nowhere to be found in the morning clouds. These 37 words gradually gave off light, and became brighter and brighter. The four deities don't know that it's me that is stealing their power. Qin Mu revealed a smile and he moved. Arms grew out under his armpits, and all kinds of runes burst forth from his fingertips, as he tapped at the 37 words on the pillar. He activated the divine art hidden in these 37 words bit by bit. The 37 words grew brighter and brighter, as they peeled off from the pillar to float in the air. Each word was huge as they laid out in the air. The 37 worlds were formed from countless complicated and fine runes in Qin Mu's eyes. Mobilizing the power of four symbols calamity formation to change the structure to runes, these words were still the same words, but the runes that formed these words were changing. The power that was hidden in these runes were gradually being activated. Now was the most crucial moment, and the smile on Qin Mu's face faded away. He couldn't help feeling slightly nervous and started to worry. Suddenly, King Dragon Count's voice rang out on the deck as he shouted, "Four deities, stop. You probably don't know, but you are not the only ones on this ship." The four deities suddenly stopped attacking the black gas outside the ship, and four symbols calamity formation could not steal the power of the four deities anymore. Qin Mu's heart jumped and his expression turned dark. King Dragon Count. North deity Qin Mu's voice rang out. "You rebelled and got seized by General Wei. I truly don't know who gave you such guts." Cold sweat broke out on Qin Mu's forehead, and he shouted, "Soldier, listen to my command. Supply all of the power in four symbols calamity formation to me." The power stolen by four symbols calamity formation surged forth and rushed at him. King Dragon Count's voice came from outside as he cried out. "There's someone under the deck. It's the right commander of Feathered Forest Guards. He is controlling Feathered Forest Guards to steal your power. He is trying to get rid of you guys and trapped all of you here. They are all dead, they are ghosts, they cannot be observed." Qin Mu gritted his teeth and mobilized all of his cultivation to change the rune structure of the 37 words. When Jawali heard King Dragon Count's words, he wanted to immediately rush out and smash this old dragon king into pulp. Right at this moment, the sky inside the ghost ship seemed to be melting. Huge hands descended down from the sky to grab at the Feathered Forest Guards, pulling them up. The deck rattled as planks smashed together to form black coffins to seal these soldiers inside. Qin Mu shouted, "Maintain the formation, don't mess up the formation." Those soldiers were extremely powerful, and if they worked together to face the enemy, they could suppress experts like King Dragon Count. Even contesting with the four deities was not an issue. However, as the commander, Qin Mu had given his command, so these soldiers gave up on defending to maintain the formation. Huge hands continued to grab down to seal even more of the Feathered Forest Guards. Lesser and lesser people were around Qin Mu, and every time a person was lost, the other would immediately change the formation to maintain the operation, without a single word of grudge. "Big senior brother, you have trained these soldiers of the Feathered Forest Guards to be too outstanding." Qin Mu finally adjusted the rune structure of the 37 words, and the 37 words shone brightly. The intense light shone out from the inside of the ship, dazzling even the eyes of the four deities, causing them to cover their eyes. "Soldiers, wait for me." Qin Mu bowed to the ground at the remaining soldiers, and he said solemnly, "The seal of the four deities can't suppress you guys. After you guys turn into the void, you will break free of the seal. In the future, I will solve Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art completely and rescue you guys out from this state that's neither living nor dead. Make an oath." The faces under the helmets looked at him. Qin Mu raised his palm. "I swear with my life." Right at this moment, another few huge hands grabbed down to pull Qin Mu, Jawali and the rest of the soldiers out. "Big sister, do you still remember Brother Mu?" Qin Mu raised his head and shouted. On the deck, that woman that had grabbed Qin Mu and Jahwali revealed a look of astonishment and cried out. Celestial Venerable Mu. Big sister, I will explain to you in the future, let go of us now. South Deity Zhu Qia let go and the 37 words exploded with a bang. Light swept out in all directions and the black fog outside the ship was swept away. It felt like an instant had passed, yet it also felt like tens of thousands of years. The light in front of Qin Mu's eyes vanished and the surroundings were dark. He was currently standing on the river surface of surging river, while village chief and dragon rearing sovereign were running behind him. They came to his side. Qin Mu looked down the water and a ghost ship was currently sailing in the water. He turned to look at the shore and first ancestor human emperor was standing there and looking over. Village chief was furious and punched him ruthlessly on his head. Take care of us. I'm here to take care of you. Rascal, after mingling outside for a few years, you have gotten quite haughty. Qin Mu rubbed his head, and he raised his head to look at the sky where a rope hung down from the moon. He looked upstream of surging river, and he saw Luo Wushuang flying over on a small boat. Qin Mu revealed a smile and said to village chief and dragon rearing sovereign. I fulfilled my promise and rescue both of you. Grandpa village chief, dragon rearing sovereign, long time no see. 680,000 years ago. Lin Xiao, faster. A bunch of gods escorted a coffin to the celestial river, and one of them shouted in a hurry, Lin Xiao, what are you standing at the side of the river for? Faster, we need to complete what the Empress has ordered us to do. Lin Xiao composed himself, and he looked at the ghost ship that had appeared in the light. He hesitated for a moment and followed after the others. He said softly, I seem to have been here before, it's like a nightmare. I had seen the 4 deities boarding the ship, and even saw the commander of feathered forest guards. Of course you are dreaming. Get on the ship now. Lin Xiao stood beside the ship and hesitated. If this is done well, the Empress will ensure your descendants achieve meteoric success in their lives. One of the gods said ruthlessly, if you hesitated again, we will have to get rid of you now to guard this secret. Lin Xiao braced himself to walk towards the ship while thinking to himself. Just a dream. It's definitely just a dream. 700,000 years ago. Celestial River. A ball of light exploded in the Celestial River. The figures of South Deity Zhu Qiu, East Deity Qing Long, West Deity Bai Hu and North Deity Xian Wu appeared and they stood on both sides of the river. They saw the light fading away, and a ghost ship reconstructing itself in the Celestial River. On the ship, Dragon Count was roaring and trying to break free of the restraints. He tried to escape from the ship. That divine dragon was incomparably strong yet, because feathered forest guards had pierced the chains through his body to suppress him on the ship, he didn't manage to break free from the suppression even when Qin Mu borrowed the power of the 4 deities to break Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art. And now, as this ghost ship reconstructed itself, Celestial Venerable Ling's divine art made a comeback, so when he struggled, he only fused with the ship more. His body merged with the building in front of the deck and now, only his head was left outside. Fear spread through King Dragon Count's eyes and he shouted, Save me. 4 deities, save me from here. The 4 deities remained standing on both shores and looked at the ship which got shrouded by the black gas again. They were bewildered. Celestial Venerable Mu was on that ship. North Deity Xian Wu suddenly looked at South Deity Zhu Qiu, and he asked solemnly, Celestial Venerable Mu even called you big sister. Should South Deity give us an explanation? What are you looking at me for? South Deity Zhu Qiu chucked and swept her large red clothing up to transform into flames. As she fled away, her laughter came from far away. Like you guys, I don't know anything. The other 3 deities frowned. Other than us who had escaped, I also saw spots of light fading away. They looked like human figures. East Deity Green Dragon said softly, also, the few officers that I had grabbed from the feathered forest guards had also vanished from my hands. When the light burst forth, they had also vanished from the ship. He looked around, but he didn't see the figures of those few officers from feathered forest guards. He muttered to himself, this ship is too strange. 720 years ago, the fog came invading. General, there's a woman casting spell in the fog. A huge ship sailed into the fog and Wei Suifeng looked at the fog that had suddenly appeared on the celestial river. His heart stirred and he took off the armor on his body. He fetched the lantern he had hung on the mast and wrote on the wall in front of the building at tremendous speed. He wrote down the final sentence. I've come from ruins of End and returned to the past when I met this woman. I visited the wonders of the past and searched for the riddles of history. Now that I've met this woman again, I think I should extinguish the lantern and return. He hung the lantern on the lantern stand and opened up the lantern to blow out the light. The building sank into darkness. The fog gradually turned darker and shrouded the entire ship. Right at this moment, light exploded in the middle of the celestial river, and 3 officers of the feathered forest guards suddenly appeared on the water surface. They looked forward in a daze and saw the black gas swallowing up their ship, vanishing from the world. You guys solve my divine art. On the river surface, a woman wearing a leopard print skirt looked at them and revealed a curious look. The 3 officers of the feathered forest guards were still in a daze. You are Celestial Venerable Ling. That woman smiled and said, looks like my divine art isn't perfect yet. There must still be some flaw. Since you guys are out, don't run around and interfere with the major event. Follow me, you guys can also tell me how you had solved my divine art. She swept her sleeve and brought the 3 men away. On Surging River, village chief and dragon-rearing sovereign were baffled. They had just caught up to Qin Mu and planned to explore the ghost ship with him. They had clearly been around, yet Qin Mu spoke like they had not seen each other for a long time. Furthermore, the current Qin Mu was also slightly strange. In the past, when village chief knocked him on the head, he would hug his head and acted like he was in pain. Yet now he was only rubbing his head. Dragon-rearing sovereign suddenly cried out in astonishment. Sword God, looking at his facial hair. His facial hair is much longer than just now. Village chief looked at Qin Mu and he saw that his mustache and beard had grown a few inches longer. His beard was stubbly and yet Qin Mu was still clean-shaven earlier. Qin Mu stroked his beard and said calmly, coming down from the silver rope in the sky would be Prince Chiu Ming from the celestial heavens and his 2 followers. Their abilities are extremely high. Village chief and dragon-rearing sovereign raised their heads, and they indeed saw 3 small figures sliding down the silver rope from the chrysanthemum-like moon. The silver rope grew longer and longer as it headed straight from the ghost ship below. Boarding the ship from underwater would be Ancestral Dragon King and the half-gods under him. Before village chief and dragon-rearing sovereign could even see the figures of Ancestral Dragon King and the rest clearly, Qin Mu had already pointed to the west and said, One-armed divine knife Luo Wushuang from the spirit elite guards of the celestial heavens will be executing a moon-shaped treasure to break through the black fog outside the ship. In the distance, Feng Chuyan would be bringing Mother Earth primordial sword and carry a stone coffin, transforming into a ball of flames to come forth. In the sky, a star would arrive and Crimson Light Son of God would transform into a beam of light to descend from the sky. Village chief and dragon-rearing sovereign were stunned. They indeed saw Luo Wushuang, who was sitting at the bow of the small boat executing a moon-shaped treasure to shine down on the ghost ship. The light of the moon was like a pillar which broke through the black gas. On the other side, flames blazed as though a huge sun was flying on the river surface at an extremely fast speed. A rainbow-colored phoenix could be faintly seen among the flames, and under its claw was a wooden sword while on its back was a stone coffin. Meanwhile, in the sky, the star of crimson light had arrived above their heads unbeknownst to them. It was parallel to the ghost ship below, and a beam of red light descended down from the sky. Village chief and dragon-rearing sovereign's minds were muddled. When did my lord change his profession to an oracle? Dragon-rearing sovereign muttered. Qin Mu suddenly said, Village chief, Crimson Light son of God has helped us on the ship. I had also promised him to rescue him out of the ghost ship. Stop him and don't let him land on the ghost ship. Village chief was confused, but he still pulled out his sword. As he flew out with his sword, thousands of mountains and rivers appeared in the sky above the ghost ship and intercepted Crimson Light son of God. The red light paused and shone onto the move, sword-treading mountains and rivers. Next, the red light suddenly shrank back and village chief's hand that was holding the sword sank down. Crimson Light son of God stood on the mountains and rivers that were floating and greeted Qin Mu, as well as First Ancestor, who was at the shore. Qin Mu returned his greeting while First Ancestor, Human Emperor, also returned his greeting from a distance away. Why have Son of Yudu blocked my way? Crimson Light son of God walked out of the apparition formed by mountains and rivers before asking with a smile. Save Son of God's life. Qin Mu smiled. I had promised to save you on the ship, and now that I've saved you after a great deal of effort, would I be wasting my effort if you were to enter the ship again? Crimson Light son of God was stunned. Village chief and dragon-rearing sovereign also had blank looks on their faces. First Ancestor Human Emperor was afraid that they were in danger and flew over. He looked at Crimson Light son of God and said indifferently, Son of God, long time no see. Crimson Light son of God's purple clothes fluttered as he gathered his chi and spirit. As though meeting a dangerous enemy, he said solemnly, Dao friend Qin's cultivation has improved once again. Qin Mu frowned and looked at Luo Wushuang's small boat. He saw the small boat stop suddenly, and didn't continue to sail towards the ghost ship. It was evident that Zhehuali was persuading Luo Wushuang. Crimson Light son of God coughed and said, Cult Master Qin's words always have deep meanings, you have made me hesitant. However, this ship is related to a huge secret, so I have to investigate. Secret about Celestial Empress? Qin Mu asked. Crimson Light son of God was stunned. Qin Mu suddenly shouted, Prince Qiu Ming. In the sky, the sliver rope hanging down from the moon has already been tied to the mast, and the few people were sliding down the rope. They were about to reach the mast when the youth heard Qin Mu's words and stopped. He looked at Qin Mu and his eyes lighted up. He said with a smile, Cult Master Qin of Heavenly Saint Cult, Eternal Peace Overlord Body, the three heroes of Eternal Peace's reform. I've just come down from the celestial heavens, and Cult Master Qin is actually able to call out my name. You truly have eyes everywhere. Looks like I've underestimated you. Qin Mu laughed and was rather pleased. He said to Village Chief, he says I have eyes everywhere. Village Chief snorted and tilted his head to look at his buttocks. Lucky you don't have a tail, or else it's going to rise to the sky. Qin Mu looked at Crimson Light son of God. I don't have eyes everywhere. I had just met him on the ship. Son of God should believe me now, right? Crimson Light son of God was even more puzzled. Right at this moment, Luo Wushuang's small boat sailed over. At the bow of the boat, Luo Wushuang stood up. Qin Mu smiled in acknowledgement, and the corners of Luo Wushuang's eyes twitched. He asked with a hoarse voice, I'm here to confirm something. What Zhehuali had told me is simply too inconceivable, therefore I'm here to ask High Emperor Overlord Body if that is true. Qin Mu nodded his head. It's true. Luo Wushuang muttered to himself for a moment before saying, many thanks. Qin Mu asked in astonishment, why did Divine Knife Luo trust me so easily? Luo Wushuang said indifferently, High Emperor Overlord Body and Eternal Peace Overlord Body are the same person, why should I not believe you? Village Chief was even more at a loss and he felt slightly terrified. When I searched High Emperor's ruins with First Ancestor, we discovered the stone tablet that had recorded the information of High Emperor Overlord Body, thus I thought there was really the Overlord Body, and even took down a rubbing of the inscriptions. From what divine knife Luo Wushuang had said, High Emperor Overlord Body is Mua, so the Overlord Body that was recorded is none other than Mua. The information of the Overlord Body on the tablet was actually made up by me, and Qin Mu had repeated my words when he ran to High Emperor era. Wait a minute, I'm feeling flustered, let me sort this out properly. He felt that his head was about to explode. If I didn't guess wrongly, the lie I had made has spread all the way to High Emperor era. Crimson Light, son of God's mind was still muddled. He looked at the ghost ship underwater before turning to look at Qin Mu, unable to make a decision. Suddenly, light flashed underwater and the ghost ship vanished without a trace. This made Crimson Light, son of God, let out a sigh of relief, as though he was relieved of a huge burden. He said with a smile, no matter if what you said is real or not, I don't have to board the ship now. Qin Mu laughed and looked around. Ancestral Dragon King and Feng Chiuyan had vanished without a trace. They must have entered the ship. Son of God, let us reminisce by the river. Qin Mu invited him. Crimson Light, son of God, nodded his head, and was about to follow him when Prince Chiu Ming suddenly chuckled. Overlord Body Qin had called me, delaying me from boarding the ship, and now you are just going to leave. Making an invitation is not as good as a chance encounter. I've come down to the lower bound this time for the 3 heroes of Eternal Peace's reform. Now that I've encountered you, I can't just let Overlord Body Qin leave just like this. Qin Mu stopped and turned to look at him. Prince Chiu Ming said leisurely, you have experts on Jade Capital beside you, and I also have experts on Jade Capital beside me. How boring is the fight between strong practitioners, so why don't you and I fight to the death on this river? What do you think about this? Zhehua burst into laughter. Qin Mu took a glance at Zhehuali and smiled warmly at Prince Chiu Ming. On this day next year, I will visit your grave. Overlord Body Qin, how haughty. Prince Chiu Ming smiled, but he wasn't angered. He said leisurely, why do peasants like you always view yourself so highly and underestimate the sons of the imperial family? My birthright is better than yours as I'm born into the imperial family. My knowledge is also more abundant than yours. My experience is also much more extensive. Whatever numinous sky or emperor's throne techniques can be easily attained by me, and I even have the guidance of the best teachers. What do you have? Village Chief, Crimson Light, son of God, first ancestor human emperor felt apprehensive. Being born into the imperial family indeed signified having an advantage over the others. This was something Qin Mu couldn't compare with. Even though Qin Mu had the teachings from the elders of disabled elderly village since he was young and was much better off than the other people, that was nothing compared to what Prince Chiu Ming had received. Prince Chiu Ming was a golden phoenix that was born into his golden nest, while Qin Mu was just a hen dragon born into his straw shack. Village Chief took a glance at Qin Mu, who was beside him, and he saw that this kid was unfazed at all. He thought to himself, it's all that Butcher's fault. Butcher taught him never to show his fear to anyone. Deaf is also to be blamed. Damned old man taught him to pee on the god to break the god in his heart, and as a result, he is afraid of nothing now. Qin Mu said with a smile, even though I'm not born into an imperial family, I have 9 people with indomitable spirit teaching me, and the head of disabled elderly village is this elder beside me. He is the village chief of our village. He taught me sword skills, he taught me how to conduct myself. Village chief was moved and he blushed as he thought to himself. Ehem, I did indeed taught him how to conduct himself. That is why he is so humble and polite. always modest and exercising forbearance, his demeanor is rather like mine. Prince Qiuming laughed loudly and placed his arms behind his back. He raised his head to look at the bright moon in the sky, and the bright moon was wrinkled. He sighed and said, "Teach you how to conduct yourself. What the use of knowing how to conduct yourself? The imperial family is the most ruthless. There are numerous princes in the celestial heavens, and if you want to stand out from the rest, you have to experience bloodbaths, which among those who had rise above others would never experience the struggles of life and death before. When I was 12, I was sent to the cemetery of the Skandha devil to fight him. 50 of us went in and only I lived to come out. What had you experienced when you were 12? Qin Mu thought about it, but he wasn't too willing to say. Village chief reminded him, "Mua, have you forgotten? Old woman Sai bought some hen dragons back then and you fought with the hen dragons daily, you always got beaten up by them." Qin Mu's face was black like iron. Prince Qiuming laughed once again and shook his head. "My birthright is better than yours. I've learned more than you, my experiences are also more extensive. Furthermore, I'm even more hardworking than you, yet you want to visit my grave, what a joke." Qin Mu looked at him seriously and said, "But killing you is really not a trouble for me. Prince, you can't even be compared to that hen dragon I had encountered last time. To kill that hen dragon, I have to work together with Brother Zhihwali. To kill you, I just need one move." Zhihwali forced back his laughter and the demon knife behind him curved its eye. It was a pity it couldn't make any sound. Prince Qiuming took a glance at him, and wore a faint smile on the corner of his lips. "Zhihwali, you are originally a talent of spirit elite guards. Never would I expect you to become so short-sighted after coming down to the lower bound. Overlord Body Qin, the reason why I'm telling you so much is not to brag about myself, they are just facts." He looked at Qin Mu and smiled faintly. "You are referred to as the Overlord Body by the peasants of the lower bound, what a joke. One can well imagine how short-sighted these lowly races of the lower bound were. If you are the Overlord Body, what body would I who was born into the imperial family be? Do you know why do I have to kill you first, after coming down to the lower bound on an order?" Qin Mu shook his head. "I don't. I've come down to kill the 3 heroes of Eternal Peace's reform, and you are the first in place. It is because you have the title of the Overlord Body." Prince Qiuming looked leisurely at the night scenery of surging river and said calmly, "Only by killing you, one of the 3 heroes of Eternal Peace's reform, would these peasants know the awe of the heavens. Only then would they know fear. Only then would they kneel to the ground and submit to us, to accept their current circumstances, and forget about further thoughts to reform or whatnot. This is why you must be rid of first." Qin Mu asked curiously, "So who is the second person you want to get rid of?" "Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor Jiang Baigui." Prince Qiuming said righteously, "Jiang Baigui is being honored as the saint that appears once every 500 years, killing him would be very shocking. This would let the foolish people of the lower bound know that their so-called saint is nothing in the eyes of the celestial heavens, that he could be crushed easily. Lastly, I will kill Emperor Yang Feng. I want him to kneel down and die, of course, he must kneel down in front of all these peasants and wait for his death." His expression turned cold. Merely the bumpkin emperor of a small country, yet he doesn't know the grace of heaven, he doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I would naturally have to destroy all of his hopes and make him kneel to wait for his death. Well said. The 2 visitors from the celestial heavens behind him clapped their hands and praised. This is what should be done to show the awe of the heavens. Prince is wise and strong. To let Prince handle this small matter of Eternal Peace Empire is truly a waste of your talents. Prince Qiuming was full of smiles and looked at Qin Mu. "Overlord Body Qin, do you dare to accept the battle?" Qin Mu was about to agree when village chief said nervously, "Mua, there's no need to agree. We have the advantage in numbers and we also have Crimson Light Son of God and First Ancestor, we can definitely win them. Why put yourself in danger and fight to the death with him? Prince Chiu Ming said leisurely, behind me are 2 experts on Jade Capital Realm, and they are in charge of my safety as well as assisting me to quell the chaos in eternal peace. Divine Knife Luo of Spirit Elite Guards is also a subordinate of the Celestial Heavens. You should know his abilities, I don't have to elaborate. You guys merely have 2 strong practitioners on Jade Capital City, while I have 1 more than you. Village Chief frowned. First Ancestor also frowned and looked at Luo Wushuang. Luo Wushuang was silent, and he looked suspiciously at Jahwali. Jahwali pretended not to see and kept his gaze on Qin Mu. Qin Mu said with a smile, Village Chief, don't worry, merely a prince from the Celestial Heavens, it's not like I have never killed one before. I'll be right back. Village Chief said softly, play it safe. Test what abilities does he has first, don't go with your killing blow right away. After you see through his abilities, just act accordingly. Qin Mu nodded and raised his hand. Prince Chiu Ming, please. Prince Chiu Ming's aura rose drastically, and his aura burst forth. His chi and blood were like an iron blood flag in the sky, floating in the wind of the river. Jahwali was astonished. On the ghost ship, Prince Chiu Ming had used 3 different kinds of Emperor's Throne techniques to defeat him, but he had not used this iron blood flag technique before. Back then, Qin Mu had killed Prince Chiu Ming in a few moves, because Prince Chiu Ming and Jahwali had fought, revealing his techniques and divine arts. Yet now that Prince Chiu Ming wasn't using the 3 kinds of Emperor's Throne techniques, Jahwali couldn't help worrying for Qin Mu. First Ancestor Human Emperor was astonished and said softly, the Emperor's Throne techniques of Western Heaven Gold Deity, Blood Rust Flag Scripture. Village Chief hurriedly asked, is it powerful? The corners of First Ancestor Human Emperor's eyes twitched and his voice was slightly hoarse. Martial Arts Heavenly Teacher had lost under this technique, and was defeated by Western Heaven Gold Deity. Village Chief's heart sank and transferred his voice to First Ancestor. If Mua is defeat, you shall block down the 2 experts from the Celestial Heavens, I will save Mua. First Ancestor Human Emperor nodded his head. Just as they finished their discussion, Prince Chiu Ming had already made his move. Blood dyed the sky and moonlight filled the sky. The moonlight shone on the rusted flag. Prince Chiu Ming made a move and the flow of surging river was nearly stopped. The surging river water rose into the sky and stood upright like a cliff. Prince Chiu Ming slashed forward and the rusted flag covered the sky to cover everyone's vision. Countless rusted swords inside this huge flag flew out and gathered into a stream which drowned out Qin Mu. Right at this moment, a beam of sword light flew out to break through the countless rusted swords, reaching Prince Chiu Ming's forehead in an instant. Prince Chiu Ming tilted his head, and the sword light flew past his cheek. Right at this moment, he saw a light flickering behind him and Qin Mu's figure had already appeared. Qin Mu stretched out his hand to grab the sword light. Prince Chiu Ming was astonished, and the huge flag in the sky covered down to sweep him away, as he escaped through the sky. Right as the huge flag covered down, Qin Mu raised his sword and stabbed into the huge flag. That sword light transformed into countless flying swords that got swept away by the huge flag as well. The huge flag that got swept up rattled and moved 100 miles instantly. Its speed was so fast that the naked eye couldn't catch anything. Qin Mu's teleportation divine art was already fast enough, and the speed of Prince Chiu Ming's blood rust flag scripture was actually not any slower. This caused everyone on the river to exclaim in admiration. As expected of an Emperor's Throne technique. When that rusted flag landed, it immediately opened up with a whoosh and countless flying swords flew out from the rusted flag like incomparably tiny silver fish. They flew back to Qin Mu. Qin Mu raised his hand and sounds of collision rang out continuously. Those tiny flying swords collided and fused with one another, transforming into a treasure sword in his hand. Qin Mu rubbed his hands and the treasure sword got rubbed into sword pellet, which he stuffed back into his Daotai sack. He then took out a stick of incense from his Daotai sack and gently blew on it. The incense was lighted up and the smell of incense rose upwards in spirals as it flew towards that flag. On the river surface 100 miles away, blood and shattered bones poured out continuously from the rusted flag and dyed the river red. That stick of incense flew over and stabbed in the hole of the flag. Prince Qiuming, now you know what is called the Overlord body, right? Qin Mu's voice rang out. Please accept this incense first. On this day next year, I'll visit your grave again. The huge flag slowly sank into the river and got swept away. Silence filled the river and no one dared to speak. The atmosphere was stifling. Village chief, first ancestor, and the others had not come back to their senses. The other two visitors from the celestial heavens also haven't come back to their senses. Just one move. Jawali sighed. He knew that this would be the conclusion, so he was the calmest one instead. He thought to himself. He had only used one move. On the ship, he had even used 4 to 5 moves. Luo Wushuang looked at him and said softly, Jawali, you knew this would happen long ago. Why didn't you say anything? Jawali didn't reply him. You killed the prince. Suddenly, the two visitors from the celestial heavens said with a trembling voice, You killed Prince Qiuming. Qin Mu replied politely, Seniors, if I don't kill him, am I going to let him kill me? Both of you don't have to look for him in Yudu or Mingju, you won't find him. I usually get rid of my enemies completely, so Prince Qiuming's soul has already been destroyed. Both of the gods from the celestial heavens screeched, and their divine might burst forth, as they pounced on Qin Mu. First ancestor human emperor, and crimson light son of God burst out, at the same time to block both of them on the light and the right. Luo Wushuang's gaze twinkled and a soft sound came from the sheath behind him. The divine knife was about to be unsheathed. Right at this moment, Qin Mu undid the willow leaf on the heart of his brows and he shouted angrily, Brother, it's time to kill. Incomparably terrifying aura burst forth from his body, and Luo Wushuang's heart shook violently. His divine knife returned back to its sheath, and the boat under his feet immediately changed direction, as he rushed towards the river. Jawali suddenly jumped down from the boat. Luo Wushuang couldn't care about escaping for his life and immediately stopped the boat. He shouted, Jawali, get up now. Teacher Luo. Jawali knelt down on the river surface and bowed. From today onwards, Teacher Luo will not have a disciple such as me. I hereby bow and thank you, teacher, for your grace. In the future, I might have to face divine knife. Luo Wushuang was stunned. He suddenly pulled out his divine knife and sliced off his sleeve to throw it into the river. The boat left in a hurry. Part 325 and 326 end here. Thank you for watching.